Are you ready to perform at your highest potential? Welcome to the Performance Matters podcast from GP Strategies, your talent transformation partner. In each episode, we'll interview industry experts and explore best practices and innovative insights to help your organization improve performance.
Things are changing. I think, at GP, we're specialists in compliance training, and we definitely are driving real change. And I think there are some really interesting trends in this area. So let's try and be a bit more positive.
Very good. So where should we start?
I think I would start, actually. I've mentioned that a lot of compliance training and the direction it's taken has actually been driven by regulation. And actually, I think some of the trends, or one of the biggest trends that we're seeing in certainly financial services training, has actually got a regulatory driver. And that is the move towards conduct-based training rather than compliance training. So there are a lot of, I talked about terminology earlier, there's actually a lot of compliance departments who are sort of rebadging themselves as conduct departments. So that's interesting, and I think that opens some doors for us, and I think it enables us to, as an industry, to probably learn from other training in other parts of organizations as to what works well. So we're seeing a strong trend towards this more conduct-centric approach. And that's in the sense of sort of values, judgment, decision making. And I think a recognition that that's actually what is at the heart of compliance. And I think there's a recognition that traditional compliance training, and we've talked about this when we've talked about knee-jerk training, was a way of fixing the problems of the past and breaches of the past. But if you're actually going to change the problems that haven't happened yet, the problems in the future, then the only way of doing that is changing conduct. So there is actually this big focus on conduct. I think the other thing it does is that it enables us to be more holistic about compliance training. We were talking earlier about where compliance ends and other training starts. And I think one of the things that we're seeing is that we don't need to actually other compliance and keep it separate, or probably get too hung up on that definition. So, for example, sales process. I mean, I mentioned earlier that sales training is probably one of the things outside compliance. So I'm actually going to have to eat my own words here. But the sales process should also be anchored to some extent in compliance, as should recruitment processes, other operational processes, if there is a compliance element. And I think that there has been a tendency in the past to separate things, and compliance to be a separate form of training, when really it should be part of all training if there's a compliance element to it, rather than kept separate.
The Performance Matters podcast is brought to you by GP Strategies. Together, we can create a world where business excellence makes possibilities achievable. You can subscribe to the show anywhere you get podcasts, or listen on our website at gpstrategies.com.